And at 10, Mimikyu. Mimikyu is the chihuahua of Pokemon. Really tiny but aggressive as hell when it wants to be. Mimikyu is known as the disguise Pokemon, and it's clear to see why. The Pokemon wears a rag designed to look like Pikachu because of Pikachu's popularity. Mimikyu is a lonely Pokemon who hopes that this disguise will help it make friends, but this comes with a catch. You can't actually look at its normal appearance. Perhaps it's ashamed or it has some self-image issues, but this need to be hidden has caused people to think that seeing this Pokemon's true form will result in a painful death. It can also hold a grudge, tracking down a Pokemon who broke the disguise after repairing it all night, fearing that its true face could have been exposed. It's unforgiving and won't rest until it tracks you down once more. Looking at this thing will kill you, it hunts you down like some sort of serial killer, and it even sided with Team Rocket because it saw Pikachu and got jealous. This is one bad Mamma Jamma, and he's also pretty scary. And at 9, Trevenant. Trevenant is the Lorax of Pokemon. First of all, it can only evolve after a trade, which is scary to those of us with no friends. But it also evolves from Phantom, a Pokemon who is just a stump possessed by the spirit of a dead child. Man, this is a Pokemon list and we're already getting into FNAF territory. Leaving the fact that this is a literal child to the side, Trevenant will literally kill people. It will trap them in the forest for all of eternity if they try and mess with nature, like chopping down trees. And he doesn't need to do this himself. He has the ability to control other trees using his roots. He can possess any tree in the forest by using them, and this means that no matter where you are, if you chop a tree in a forest guarded by one of these or even multiple Trevenant, you're screwed, buddy. You'll end up getting trapped in the forest and join the Phantom army. Also, how are there wild Trevenants? Like, how does trading help Pokemon evolve? Is it the power of being abandoned that fuels the evolution? If you can only get it evolving by trading it, how are there Trevenants in the wild? I don't know. And at 8, Yamask. Yamask is holding a mask of their face while they were human. I don't think there's much else to say. That Pokemon was a human and then became a Pokemon in death. And then they retain all the memories of their former life. The Pokemon Black Dex even says that sometimes they look at the mask they carry, that was their former face, remember, and cry over it. That's depressing. Yamask is also one of the few Pokemon, actually it's not really a few, there are plenty of Pokemon that used to be human. Kadabra, for example, is described as being human once. Phantom, like I just talked about, is another Pokemon that used to be human. Man, there are plenty of Pokemon that used to actually have human souls or something similar. That really makes me think about why this game is marketed towards kids. We literally have a Pokemon who is being tortured by having former memories of being free and then is enslaved as a Yamask for all of eternity. That's not safe for kids. And at 7, Aegislash. Aegislash doesn't look that intimidating when you look at him straight on. He's just a sword with a shield and he can switch between the two, you know, depending on what move he's using. But this thing is literally a possessed sword. It's a sentient sword and this is his final form. This is the most powerful he can get. And he's a sentient sword. That's freaking nuts, okay? Have you stopped to consider the implications of this? There is a species of sentient swords in the Pokemon universe, and if they decide they don't like you, you're boned. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. There is no coming back from that, especially when you realize that these two were once people. Honedge is said to be born from a person's soul after they were killed by the sword that they reside in, meaning this person was brutally murdered by a sword, they instantly possessed that sword, and then evolved twice into the death machine we call Aegislash. Not to mention that the sash that comes out of the sword will suck the life out of anyone who tries to grab the handle. Awesome. And at 6, Delmise. Let me just read out a quick quote from the wiki. Delmise prefers large prey, such as Wailmer or Wailord. The heavy anchor can be swung with enough force to knock out its prey in a single blow. The victim is then enveloped in seaweed, which can be stretched for hundreds of yards, and its life force is drained. What the actual if you seek A? The scary actual design of the Pokemon is straight up horrifying, and the actual Pokemon is just the seaweed, so you're saying that this thing intentionally wraps itself around the anchor in an effort to make it look like sharp teeth? And then a really menacing smile. Plus, this thing has enough balls to hunt Wailmer and Wailord. Do you know how big a Wailord is? 47 feet and 7 inches long. And that's not to mention the fact that it weighs 877.4 pounds. Like, I know it's hard to tell, but I'm a skinny guy. If Delmise can knock out a 877 pound whale with just one hit of its anchor, I'm screwed. It will just straight up kill me. And the Pokemon is just the seaweed that it can then collect more of. That's the scariest damn thing I can think of in the water, okay? And this thing isn't even a water type. It's ghost and grass. What the hell? Why are you in the water? Leave me alone. Halfway through at number 5, Runerigus. Runerigus is the Galarian version of Cofagrius, the evolution of Yamask. Runerigus evolves from the Galarian Yamask, and while the original Yamask is an absolutely brutal tail, Galarian Yamask gets absorbed by the tablet it's holding after it loses 50 health and you ride under the stone bridge in Dusty Bowl. Runerigus was formed from a painting imbued with an ancient curse, which was activated by absorbing the spirit of Yamask and brought the painting to life. Anyone that touches the actual shadow body of Runerigus will have the memories behind the painting's creation forced onto them, probably in a painful way if I know anything about the Pokemon series. This is just brutal, and this is nothing new for the Pokemon series, honestly. This is just rude as hell. First you're gonna destroy Yamask by making it remember its past life, and then you're gonna come at me saying it will also get absorbed and be forced to become Runerigus. That's just the most savage thing ever. Pokemon, why? And at 4, Golurk. Golurk is a beast. This guy is over 9 feet tall and weighs nearly as much as Wailord at 727 pounds. Golurk is a possessed automaton and is said to have served as a laborer to the ancient people who invented it. Somehow though, this absolute monster is able to fly by retracting its arms and legs and then rocketing off. But not only is he able to do that, you can also set him on edge. You can literally turn this Pokemon into a killbot by removing the seal on his chest. Doing so will cause his energy color to go from yellow to red, and he will start to fly around randomly, sometimes unable to land. But if he does land, he'll start attacking indiscriminately. He will attack anything and everything he wants to. It's also capable of firing energy beams, okay? And I don't care how many times Team Rocket is blasted off again, but you can't survive an unhinged Golurk Hyper Beam to the face. That's impossible. In at 3, Dawnwing's Necrozma. I wanted to avoid legendaries on this list because, well, they're all terrifying because they have an immense amount of power, but Necrozma is a ghost type legendary that we just can't avoid talking about. When combined with Lunala, we get Dawnwing's Necrozma, who is both psychic and ghost type, and while yes, it's not Necrozma's true form, it still makes me want to crap my pants. Have you seen Dawnwing's Necrozma? I haven't even played through Ultra Moon, but I want it, and yes, I do have Ultra Moon. I got it because I wanted to do some shiny hunting on my Twitch, but I wasn't in the mood to play through a Pokemon game, so I just had my starter and that was it. Either that or I was soft resetting for a shiny Rowlet. I can't remember, it was a while ago. Maybe I should go back and play that. I want to hunt all the stuff I can, especially that Mewtwo, because I want a shiny Mewtwo. Anyway, these Pokemon lists have really gotten me back into the Pokemon hype train. Might live stream some more things hunting on my own, I don't know. No matter what though, this dude is absolutely horrifying, but also beautiful. It's very confusing. In at 2, Gengar. You can't have a scary ghost Pokemon list and not include Gengar. While Gengar is scary, he just hasn't held up when it comes to looking at later additions in the Pokemon lineup. I have him at number 2 because of the nostalgia and because if I didn't include him you would all hate me, and if I had put him any lower on the list I would have been burnt at the stake. But you can't deny that this is the original Shadow Scare Pokemon. The whole legend of it being Clefable Shadow and that it's probably a dead Clefable is terrifying. This guy will eat your dreams and cause you physical harm by doing so, and the Mega Evolution is terrifying. But I think the scariest part about Gengar is his shiny. At least we got something better in the shiny for Mega Gengar. I think the only thing Gengar has going for him is that tongue. She asked me what that tongue do and I say, girl, I've been training Gengar for 10 years, I'll make you cry for a week. Finally, in at number 1, Majin. Okay, hold up, don't hate on me just yet. Majin is a real character that was present in Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, and could only be fought in the Pokestar studio. He is a dark and ghost type that looks kinda like a tornado, kinda like the final Titan from Spider-Man Far From Home. This Pokemon will only appear in the Ghost Eraser series movie. Defeating this Pokemon is quite scary since you can only do it with status moves. Thanks to its ability Wonder Guard and typing of Ghost and Dark, it is actually immune to every type of move, unless you have a specific move, ability, and or item that will allow a super effective move to hit, usually a fighting type move. All other moves get blocked, which is actually insane. Sure, it's not a real Pokemon and you can only encounter it in a movie, but it's still a scary ghost type Pokemon because it's literally immune to everything unless you can overcome it with something like Odor Sleuth, Scrappy, a Ring Target, Mold Breaker, Turo Blaze, Terravolt, or Soak. If you can't, you're screwed, okay? I know it's not a real Pokemon, but it's still a scary ghost type Pokemon. Get it?
Number 10, Omanite. Omanite isn't the most scary of all the water type Pokemon, it's true, but it would still be a pretty scary one to encounter in real life, especially with its strangely large eyes. This Pokemon is also still a foot in height, so running into a bunch of Omanites down by a shoreline would still be pretty intimidating and intense. For some reason, Omanite has always reminded me of like a water-based, shell-encased facehugger. This Pokemon is also a fossil type, which means it is old. So who Who knows, maybe at one point it was a face hugger in its life and could return to hugging faces at any point in the future? Who knows. Definitely a Pokemon that if you ran into it underwater, you wouldn't want or be able to take your eyes off of it. Number 9, Greninja. Greninja might just look like a cute ninja frog, but there are some facts to consider when it comes to imagining what this Pokemon would actually look like in a real world encounter. First of all, this isn't just a small, cute frog water type. This Pokemon is actually listed as having an average height of 4 feet and 11 inches, so it's kind of like more like a giant frog armed with razor sharp compressed water throwing stars, whose tongue looks like it's become tangled and forced to wrap around its head multiple times as the end of it dangles to the side. Not only that, but imagine a creature as tall as 4'11" with a waist as narrow as Greninja's. Sounds like some sort of creepy underwater cryptid. Number 8, Kingler. Anything with pincers is just usually a no for me, which means that Pokemon that resemble a king crab is also a no. I have never been pinched by a pincer underwater, but I wouldn't want to start experiencing that at any point in the future, and it is for this reason that I chose to include Kingler on our scary underwater Pokemon list. At this point, it's also possible for you to encounter a Gigantamax Kingler in the world of Pokemon. Gigantamax Pokemon are typically known for their increased size and durability, meaning they're bigger and tougher to take down. Instead of imagining your normal, still 4 feet Kingler, imagine a 60+ foot Kingler instead. Yikes, that sounds scary. Number 7, Lapras. But especially a Gigantamax Lapras. Horrifying just due to its sheer size. Lapras basically looks like some kind of underwater sea monster, like a giant crab or turtle combined with what people believe the Loch Ness Monster might look like. A regular Lapras is around 8 feet tall, with the Gigantamax Lapras being around 78 feet tall. Now that's about as tall as a Brachiosaurus would have been. 78 feet tall is actually almost the equivalent of the length of 2 school buses bumper to bumper. That's big. Lapras looks like a dinosaur, so seeing something like this underwater would likely make you worry that you've somehow entered the same reality as Jurassic Park and Jurassic World. Number 6, Blastoise. I actually don't evolve my Squirtle past the Wartortle evolution, usually because I'm just so scared of Blastoise, and I don't want to make a Blastoise of my poor little Squirtle. It's so cute. I actually just keep my Squirtles usually Squirtle because the grumpy faces of both of these evolutions here I don't like it. Squirtle looks so happy. Blastoise looks like they're out for blood. Blastoise might seem like a cool Pokemon to own and battle with, but if you come face to face with this Pokemon, I'm not sure that you're gonna feel the same way. Let's also consider the fact that an angry Blastoise is also always armed due to the 2 cannons that naturally protrude from its shell. And then there are Mega and Gigantamax versions of that Pokemon to worry about. Mega Blastoise looks like they will and actually want to destroy you with their one very prominent cannon. They're like, I'm coming for you. I'm gonna mow you down. Number 5, Feraligatr. It's all in the name with this Pokemon. Feraligatr is literally a combination of the word feral, meaning wild and often bloodthirsty, and the word alligator. So basically, we're dealing with a ferocious and unhinged alligator. Yeah, I'm not really about that. Alligators are scary enough to encounter in the wild as is. What if you encountered a Feraligatr instead, who can also walk on hind legs and chase you, but is obviously also skilled when it comes to water battles, being themselves a water type Pokemon. Alligators chasing me on hind legs sounds like some nightmare fuel. Number 4, Starmie. Okay, so maybe I'm the only one terrified by Starmie, but I really don't think I should be. Let me just make my case here for why I think Starmie should actually be revered as one of the most horrific water types around. Starmie isn't just a water Pokemon, but it's also psychic, making it even stronger and more useful of a Pokemon in battle than you might at first expect. And also meaning if you had to battle Starmie face to face underwater, you'd have even more to worry about. Starmies are also known for having access to a diverse range of abilities, so you never know when you face one just what attacks you might be coming up against. They're also known for being quite fast for a water type, which means in summary, you are dealing with a fast, psychic, double-stacked starfish who could maybe attack you with a thunderbolt while you're swimming around underwater. Not a battle that I would like to be in. Number 3, Gyarados. As much as we love Gyarados, it's also basically a giant sea serpent. Not a Pokemon you'd want to find out with swimming just meters below you in a crystal clear lake or ocean. The crazy thing about Gyarados too is it's a Pokemon that evolves from the super harmless and often touted as most useless Pokemon, Magikarp. But while Magikarp's Splash feels like one of the most safe, though mildly annoying attacks you could suffer, Gyarados' Earthquake would likely leave you in a horrified dash as you headed for the shore. Get me out of the water! Number 2, Dracovish. What could possibly be more terrifying than a Gyarados? The frightening fossil hybrid Pokemon, Dracovish. This Pokemon was initially believed to be extinct due to how much of an apex predator it is known for being. It was believed that the Dracovish had actually died out due to severe overhunting of its prey. This Pokemon can only breathe underwater, meaning that it's definitely one that you could only fight against and encounter underwater. Not that you'd really want to do that. It's known to move at speeds exceeding 40 miles an hour, which means outswimming it is basically impossible. Actually, it is impossible. Can you swim faster than 40 miles an hour? Because I can't. Chris, you can't swim faster than 40 miles an hour, can you?
Definitely not.
Doesn't sound humanly possible. It's also known for its ferocious bite and strong jaw. Can we just acknowledge how frightening of a shape this also has? It's like got a hollow middle. What is that? What is this? I don't like it. Number 1, Kyogre. Kyogre is a legendary Pokemon that resembles both a whale and a shark somewhat, like kind of combined. Whales are huge, but aren't typically known for being particularly threatening to humans or really anyone in the water, except for maybe what they're eating, like krill. So why should we be worried about this giant legendary Pokemon? Well, because it is just so powerful. Kyogre is known for being one of the most powerful water types in the game and is powerful enough to create oceans. Basically, a trainer could use this Pokemon to flood the world, and Kyogre could easily drown you and the whole city that you live in if it wanted to. Or it could even do so without really knowing or caring about the lives that it was destroying. After all, Pokemon are just wild creatures. The real horrifying thing is you wouldn't even need to be underwater with a Kyogre to live in fear of it, if it existed in the real world. Also imagine playing a video game and spotting a Kyogre in the distance underwater, and then the closer it got, the larger it appeared. Primal Kyogres are estimated to be up to 32 feet long, and they also have a wingspan for you to consider as well in terms of the size of their overall majestic yet terrifying appearance. Number 10, Volcarona. Giant bugs just creep me out in general, unless we're talking about spiders, which I'm actually pretty cool with. But this Pokemon isn't a spider-inspired bug/fire type. It's definitely like a larvae meets a moth. Yikes. To add to its spooky ickiness, Volcarona also evolves from the Pokemon Larvesta. Volcarona is a giant bug/fire type Pokemon who's also one of the first to be celebrated as a game changer when it comes to other bug Pokemon. It was known for being the one to watch out for, as it can make for a fierce opponent in battle. One of its abilities, Flame Body, sets the body of its opponent on fire upon contact. So if you don't want to go up in flames, maybe keep walking if you run into a Volcarona.
And at 9, Magnetar. Magnetar may not look extremely menacing, but this guy has actual flamethrowers for hands. It's like Elon Musk got his flamethrowers surgically attached to his arm and then just went nuts. And that's not even the worst part. These flames can get up to 2,000 degrees Celsius, which is 3,600 degrees Fahrenheit for the 3 countries in the world who still use the Imperial system. This guy lives in volcanoes and is totally fine with it. His body can turn white when he pulls a Danny DeVito and just starts blasting, and if he blasts too much, they can literally start melting their arms. This Pokemon will destroy itself as long as it doesn't have to deal with your bullshit anymore. And if that's not the absolutely most horrifying thing, then it would be higher on this list. Oh wait, it gets worse? Yeah baby, this is only number 9. Get ready for a wild ride.
Number 8, Houndoom. Houndoom is a dark fire type Pokemon that looks even more frightening as its Mega version. A Mega Houndoom appears dressed in skeletal armor with a forked tail. Basically, Houndoom looks like some kind of hell dog. Although I have to admit, if I had to own one of these scary fire type Pokemon, I would definitely pick Houndoom. As frightening as their horned ears are, I also think they look kind of cute. Then again, I do have a tendency to find spooky things cute, so yeah. Although if you did own a Houndoom as a pet, you'd want it to be very well trained. Its attacks will leave you with an injury that will never stop burning, no matter how long has passed. An entry from Pokemon Gold elaborates, if you are burned by the flames it shoots from its mouth, the pain will never go away. It's also recorded in Ash's Pokedex as possessing an eerie howl, which causes those who hear it to shudder in fear.
And at 7, Lampent. Lampent is just a floating lamp, right? Not too much that's scary about that, aside from the fact that Game Freak and Nintendo greenlit this Pokemon, and this is the start of their design decline. But nothing is really scary about a floating lamp with a purple flame, until you hear about the lore behind this Pokemon. Lampent can sense when someone is about to die. Yeah, you heard me. When someone is about to die and a Lampent is around, the Lampent will straight up go to steal that person's soul from their body. It also uses it to fuel its fire, so it needs a constant supply, thus leading it to hanging around hospitals, where it will just go around stealing souls. Yeah, imagine being a little kid with your parent in the hospital and then seeing a Lampent walk in. You would be absolutely destroyed. That's heartbreaking. But then you also remember it stole their soul. Therefore, your dear old parent didn't head into the afterlife. Yeah, that's how this works. Sometimes it even works with Litwick to bring people to the ghost world while stealing their life energy. This Pokemon straight up kills people if someone hasn't died in a while. What the flying Game Freak? I didn't include this in the ghost types list because I forgot, but I'm including it now because holy hell.
Number 6, Heatran. Heatran is just a creepy Pokemon to come across as it crawls around and is known for being a legendary Pokemon who is quick to rage. 2 eyes peer out from its metal-looking skull, making it look as though Heatran is a Pokemon trapped in a metal mask. Its mouth also looks like it's part of the mask, and something that always freaks me out is just creatures who have no mouths, so the fact that it also appears this way on first glance to me is pretty terrifying. Heatran is powerful, angry looking, and can wall crawl, which only makes him a more terrifying Pokemon to run into. Although maybe not for Connor, because he'd just be wall crawling alongside him. Imagine seeing an angry Heatran emerge from the shadows, crawling on the ceiling above you. I don't want to, but you can.
Halfway through at number 5, Emboar. Emboar is the final evolution of Tepig, the fire starter from Unova, also known as Pokemon Black and White in their sequels. Holy sweet crap, is this a scary Pokemon. Emboar is like the fire pig version of the Hulk. Dude's got forearms for days, like Popeye had a kid with the Hulk after eating some Taco Bell fire sauce. This thing is mad freaky. It emits fire constantly from around its neck. It's like the weirdest scarf known to man, but at least it will keep you warm. Emboar has no fear. He will touch his hands to his neck in order to set them on fire for even worse punches, and he's a unit. The speed of this thing is nuts, and it can master fighting type moves and use its fire hands along with it. Not to mention it's also relentless while fighting. It can unleash powerful blasts of fire using only its nose. That nose is one hell of a nose, might I say. And then cloak its body with flames and then just crash into you. What the hell? That's insane. This Pokemon is basically Satan. Literally, this Pokemon could be the Satan of the Pokemon world, and I wouldn't even be surprised. When I go to hell, I'll send a message back letting you know if I see Emboar there.
Number 4, Moltres. Fiery phoenixes are usually thought of as being pretty creatures, but just because you appear beautiful and elegant doesn't mean you can't also be a horrific monster. If anything, the beauty of Moltres just adds to the scare factor as it can be used to lure enemies in. Moltres is a legendary Pokemon from the Kanto region and can rain down fireballs from above when provoked. It also is estimated to be on average around 6 feet tall, which if its dimensions were similar to like a standard fantasy dragon, means it could have an up to 75 feet wingspan. 75 feet is around as long as 2.5 London buses. So just imagine a firebird soaring above you with each of its wings being around the length of a bus. Truly terrifying.
And at 3, Incineroar. I know that Incineroar is in Smash Bros, but that only goes to further my point. Look at this absolute beast. Incineroar is basically what I imagine all cats to be, but with a belt of fire. Yeah, this Pokemon has a belt of freaking fire. This Pokemon doesn't give a flying flock. He just likes to fight. He will disregard the safety of everyone else, sometimes even hitting the opposing trainer with attacks. It's an extremely violent Pokemon and will sometimes ignore its trainer's orders if it just doesn't want to listen. This Pokemon begs for praise from crowds running on it and will only do well if there's an audience to watch their absolute destruction of their opponent. It only fights worthy opponents and will just laugh at unworthy ones. This Pokemon literally had a move called Throat Chop as its signature, and with over 180 pounds behind that Throat Chop, any trainer who decides to attack for fun is screwed. Big time. This dude is as tall as me but has arms the size of my head and is willing to probably kill me? No thanks. No thanks at all.
Number 2, Charizard. But isn't Charizard one of the most beloved Pokemon, Amanda? Well, you're not wrong. Charizard definitely is. But they're also the star of many internet creepypastas and other scary stories involving Pokemon. And it is for this reason that I give Charizard one of our top spots. Charizard is basically a fire-breathing dragon who you would not want to get on the bad side of. Although in most fantasy stories, fire-breathing dragons are often the enemies of the heroes and definitely something to be feared. I'm sure most dragons Dragon Age fans and Skyrim fans will agree with me on this point.
Finally, in at number 1, Centiskorch. You think normal centipedes are scary and gross? Well, how about one that can both breathe fire and is constantly emitting it from its face? Yeah, Centiskorch is not only a flat fire-breathing centipede, but he is also 9 feet long. This thing is a 9-foot-long giant fire-breathing centipede. If that's not the most terrifying thing to you, you really need to get your priorities in check. And its Gigantamax version, that monster is over 246 feet long. Yeah, 246 feet. And there's even more fire and even more legs. Legs on the menu, baby. Not to mention the flames they can emit can get to 1.5 thousand degrees Fahrenheit. And it's a very violent Pokemon, attacking anything that comes near it. This thing will wrap itself around you to sear you alive with the organs on its underside that emit flames as well, and just constrict you if it's feeling mean. This guy is an absolute unit. If you have a Centiskorch, you're a god amongst men, because you can do whatever the hell you want, and if anyone tells you different, they'll get fried alive by a 246-foot-long centipede. No thank you, good sir.
Number 10, Tangela. It may seem silly, but Tangelas have scared me ever since I was a little kid playing and watching Pokemon. Something about the fact that we can never see its full face. Tangelas are comprised of a bunch of blue vines, which hides its face from view, so only its eyes are really visible. The mystery of its appearance and the black void that seems to surround its eyes has always creeped me out. Imagine running into a bunch of Tangela out in the forest or tall grass at night. Just a bunch of bright eyes peering out at you. And just what horror could those blue vines be hiding? Why do Tangelas feel the need to hide their face? What's under there? Some fangs? I want to see it. Number 9, Shiftry. How does something so cute as a Seedot become something as ominous and frightening as Shiftry? It's just the mystery and magic of evolution, I guess. Shiftry is the final evolution of Seedot. It is a much feared Pokemon who is known as the guardian of the forest. It's got creepy eyes and a shaggy mane that also masks most of its face. A rare and tough Pokemon to fight, Shiftry can use its abilities to try and read its foes' minds, allowing it to anticipate how they will attack and react appropriately. Sometimes Shiftry can even react before its opponent has time to strike, making it a deadly Pokemon to face in battle. Number 8, Lileep. You don't have too much to be frightened of with Lileep, as it's a Pokemon who became extinct about 100 million years ago, so you're less likely to run into one in the modern day and age of Pokemon today. Lileep can still be revived and retrieved, however, with the use of root fossils. Lileep is a grass and rock type Pokemon that resembles a flower, but a rather deadly underwater flower. Its pink petals might look pretty, but you'll want to watch out for them if you run into a Lileep while swimming. Its petals are used to attract prey, which it then swallows whole. And don't even get me started on its terrifying, glowing yellow eyes. Little creep, more like it. Number 7, Rotom. Rotom isn't exactly a grass type. It has the potential to be various types of Pokemon, but originally it started out as electric and ghost type, while in its true form as just Rotom. However, Rotom is a Pokemon that can possess motors. Its name is actually the word motor backward. Rotom. Motor. When Rotom possesses the motor belonging to a lawnmower, it becomes the most frightening version of itself in my opinion, and also becomes an electric and grass type Pokemon instead. Rotom looks like a murderous, haunted lawnmower. It might not be inherently murderous, but it's definitely known for being a mischievous Pokemon in all of its forms. Think Peeves the Poltergeist vibes from Harry Potter. Still spooky though, meeting a ghost that can literally possess your lawnmower and potentially use it to chop you up if it wanted to. Number 6, Victory Bell. Another one that always bothered me was Victory Bell. Weepin' Bell, I can deal with. Bellsprout, no problem. But that final evolution, not my cup of poisonous tea. Not at all. Victory Bell is both a grass and poison type Pokemon. Its upside down face always bothered me, especially as it features 2 very sharp teeth with eyes that lurk just beneath it. Victory Bell lures in prey by waving around its vine. If it catches you, you're basically a goner, although it usually only preys on small animals and rodents, so fortunately, this is unlikely to happen. However, it has been known to attack humans when agitated, like in the anime when it attacked Jessie. If Victory Bell manages to gobble you up, you will quickly be dissolved in acid within the plant. After just eating, its acid also smells sweeter, making it more alluring to prey. Ugh. Number 5, Parasect. What is wrong with its eyes? Why do they have no pupils? I'm a sucker for freaky things going on in the face region when it comes to Pokemon or anything else really, as a matter of fact, and so Parasect's face has always got me. At first glance, it appears to have no mouth, although it definitely does have a mouth, and has ghostly white eyes without any pupils to speak of. It's a bug and grass type Pokemon who itself is possessed by the mushroom that grows on its back. Have I also mentioned that I'm terrified of possession? Removing the mushroom on a Parasect's back will likely kill it, as the mushroom is fully in control of the insect's movements, hence its blank stare and emotionless eyes. So Parasect is probably like an insect that's being driven around by a mushroom, an insect's corpse. Number 4, Mega Sceptile. Sceptile is not a particularly frightening Pokemon, except of course when it Mega evolves. This kind-hearted Pokemon then turns into basically, well, a kind-hearted dragon, becoming both part grass and part dragon type in this form. Dragons in general, however, are just terrifying, so even if this Pokemon is generally one that is friendly, you still might want to watch out and make sure you stay on its good side. Its tail and body become larger and its markings change to include more red. As always, you'll still want to watch out for its sharp leaves and claws. Number 3, Gourgeist. Gourgeist might look like a cute little floating jack-o'-lantern with pretty pink hair that has a mischievous but cute face poking up from beneath its long pink locks, but it's really a stealer of souls. Gourgeists are known for coming out during the night of a new moon in order to lure victims out with their cheerful song. Those who hear the song become cursed. The Gourgeist will catch their victims and then take them into the afterlife. A much more sinister version of their pre-evolution Pokemon, Pumpkaboo. Pumpkaboo is the cutest name ever, gotta say. Number 2, Phantump. Phantump is a ghost and grass type Pokemon. Despite its adorable appearance, the lore behind this Pokemon is what makes it truly horrifying. It's believed that Phantumps are created when a tree stump becomes haunted by a spirit. It's believed that a Phantump actually becomes possessed and is given life by the spirit of a child who became lost and died in the forest. So if you ever run into a whole group of Phantumps, you're basically running into a bunch of ghostly dead children. Not only that, but the cry of a Phantump mirrors the voice and screams of a child and has been known to lure others from the forest path, causing those who wander through the woods at night trying to find it to become lost and possibly perish themselves, becoming a Phantump too later on. Number 1, Trevenant. Trevenant basically looks like an evil haunted tree, which is exactly what it is based on type. It's both a ghost and grass Pokemon and evolves from Phantump when you trade it. As if Phantump wasn't scary enough based on the lore attached to it. Trevenant can also reach out using its roots and utilize them to take control of other trees around it. This Pokemon is even more scary to run into if you happen to be someone who cuts down or causes harm to trees, which it is very much against, basically acting like a vengeful forest spirit. So yeah, don't hurt trees. Although also don't do that in general. Like, why are you hurting trees? Calm down.
In 10, Dialga. Dialga is known as a deity in Sinnoh myths, which means that people consider it to be a god, which makes sense since it's a part of the creation trio of Dialga, Palkia, and Giratina, and we all know how I feel about Pokemon gods. However, it's what this Pokemon is a master of that really makes Dialga terrifying. They're the master of time. Dialga is able to warp time either by speeding it up, slowing it down, or just stopping it. Yeah, this Pokemon can stop time. It can also time travel to the past or the future, and we all know how dangerous messing with time can be. Of course, Dialga wouldn't do that, but it did send Ash and friends back in time in the movie Arceus and the Jewel of Life. And if they made any mistake, butterfly effect. We've seen it in all other forms of media that have to do with time travel, Back to the Future, The Flash, Avengers Endgame. Every bit of media that has people messing with time ends up having an effect, and this wouldn't be any different. That's terrifying. He didn't even care. It was just like, hey, passed. In the 9, Reshiram. Well, Reshiram is more like the little toddler that didn't get its way and thus throws a tantrum, because when Reshiram's emotions surge, its tail lights up with a fiery glow and goes into overdrive mode. And with this jet engine shaped tail, this thing can burn everything in its wake. It uses its tail to fly at high speeds, but can also send flames from said tail into the air to incinerate everything around it. Reshiram can straight up start the Pokepocalypse if it wanted to, or if it was just having a bad day. Not only is it capable of burning down your house, but it has before. Reshiram is said to have burnt down entire kingdoms in the past, and by flaring its tail, it's able to control the weather by literally moving the world's atmosphere. That's insane and horrifying to think that a Pokemon has so much control control over life and death, and it's just because of its tail. And this isn't even the worst one. Also, by the way, if you guys are enjoying the video, please do us a favor and hit the like button. It really helps us out and can help this video be seen by even more people, and we get to make more fun stuff like this. And today, Volcanion. I've always seen Volcanion as scary, ever since the day the first fire and water type Pokemon was announced. However, after reading up on this dude, this fear only grew. Volcanion famously has that ring above its head, and those are actually like high pressure hoses that he can control individually. However, instead of water, these shoot steam. You may be thinking, sure, it's just steam, but it can shoot out steam at such a high pressure that it actually has the ability to blow mountains away. Not just move them, but blow them away. Mount Everest actually used to be in BC. Not only is this Pokemon extremely powerful, but it also hates humans, as shown in the movie Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel, where it targeted the Azoth Kingdom to retrieve Magearna, a man-made Pokemon. This guy can blow away mountains and hates humans? That sounds like death to me, brother. No thank you. And at 7, Curium. Curium is an absolute beast. This Pokemon looks insane. The design of this Pokemon is really what makes me love Black and White and their sequels. This design is some of the peak Pokemon design. Not this generation, since there is literally an ice cream cone that evolves to get more scoops and ice cream cones, but Curium is absolutely nuts. This Pokemon radiates freezing energy, so much so that due to a leak, the Pokemon's body became frozen. It is said to have power that exceeds that of both Reshiram and Zekrom, but the cold keeps it at bay. According to legend, Curium used to eat Pokemon and humans if they were found outside at night, so we can assume that he hates everything. At least he ate them until he ended up getting himself frozen solid. This Pokemon is also able to fuse with either Zekrom or Reshiram, making it the first fusion Pokemon. And even these Pokemon are terrifying. Sure, you can't have it without one or the other, but holy crap, this thing is haunting my nightmares tonight. And at 6, Zekrom. While being incinerated is scary, at least Reshiram looks majestic and like it wouldn't hurt a fly. Zekrom, on the other hand, will annihilate your kingdom with lightning and look like he'd do that and then steal your girl. Zekrom's tail emits an anti-gravity field which it uses to fly, but like, do you know the implications of that? You walk near Zekrom and you start floating higher and higher until you can't breathe anymore. It's like that cursed difficulty that Fundy made for Minecraft. This is some of the craziest crap that you can think of, and it's in a Pokemon game. This guy can summon multiple thunderstorms at once in one area. What the hell does that even mean? There could be like 5 thunderstorms at once? That would cause a load of panic, and like, how does that even work? Would it just turn into a tornado? Would it cause a load of destruction? Probably, because he can destroy a whole kingdom with lightning, and has done so before. Halfway through at number 5, Shadow Lugia. Shadow Lugia is a Lugia corrupted by the criminal organization Cypher. Shadow Lugia is also believed to be the ultimate shadow Pokemon immune to purification. This is evident from its appearance, which is different to normal Lugia, something that is unique to this legendary, since all other shadow or corrupted Pokemon possess a shadowy aura instead. Shadow Lugia appeared in the game Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, where it picks up a whole cruise ship, the SS Libra, and drops it in the desert, allowing Cypher to capture all the Pokemon on board. That's crazy. This is one of the scariest things ever. If the character of Professor Crane hadn't made the Purify Chamber in that game, Lugia would have been lost forever, and been an evil and terrifying looking Pokemon. You have to agree with me that Shadow Lugia is terrifying, but there are a couple more that make things even worse. And at 4, Mewtwo. Mewtwo was first seen as an evil Pokemon who hated humans, but honestly he just wanted to be left alone. Same. However, in the movie Detective Pikachu, we see Mewtwo get corrupted and controlled by Howard Clifford, who transfers his consciousness into Mewtwo and uses it to attack Rhyme City, fusing Pokemon with their trainers, like Mewtwo had done for Pikachu and Tim's father. Mewtwo is the original most powerful Pokemon. The main goal of the original Pokemon games was to eventually catch Mewtwo after becoming the champion, and the fact that this movie proves that one of the most powerful and beloved Pokemon, at least by community standards, can be controlled and used in such a way is terrifying. This is really only talking about the Detective Pikachu universe, but still, nuts and one of the craziest things that we've seen to date in any form of Pokemon universe game. And at 3, Rayquaza. Rayquaza is a beast of a Pokemon. This guy in his original form is 23 feet long and weighs 455 pounds. While he is meant to soothe the other members of the Weather Trio, the territorial nature of this Pokemon means that it will really attack indiscriminately. In the Pokemon movie Destiny Deoxys, Rayquaza attacks Deoxys for invading its territory, even though it was just looking for its friend, another Deoxys, and was not invading territory at all. But also, the shiny of this Pokemon is terrifying. A giant flying snake that is nearly impossible to see against the night sky because it's black with only a couple yellow spots? No thank you. Rayquaza also attacked the rocket ship that Ash and his friends and Team Rocket were on in the anime episode Where No Togepi Has Gone Before, which is really scary since, you know, they all could have died, but they have plot armor so they didn't. Oh, and Rayquaza had a battle with Deoxys that caused the meteor to head towards the Alola region. Kartana was able to cut it up, but if it hadn't, Alola would have been destroyed. Yeah. That's a no from me. And at 2, Yveltal. Yveltal basically has control over death. It has the power to absorb life energy by spreading its wings and tail feathers. And in the main anime series episode The Legend of X, Y, and Z, Yveltal was shown turning a whole kingdom to stone, including people and Pokemon. And when it reaches the end of its life, it kills everything. Yeah, according to the Pokemon Y and Alpha Sapphire Pokedex, when its life comes to an end, it absorbs the life energy of every living thing and turns into a cocoon once more. Yeah, if this Pokemon dies, everything dies. And apparently, it's inevitable. Sure, the destruction may be contained to the Kalos region, but even then, literally anything and everything from that region will die. What the hell? That's insane. Like, that's like the Pokemon equivalent of Pompeii. The utter destruction of the world when Yveltal's life comes to an end? How is that not scary? I don't know how I didn't mention this in part 1, okay? But I should've, okay? And for that reason, I'm out. Finally, in at number 1, Necrozma. Necrozma, in addition to looking terrifying, is just like the physical embodiment of a black hole in the Pokemon universe. It's pitch black, which is the result of impurities that built up inside the Pokemon during its deep slumber. It also absorbs light, and once it absorbs enough light, it can ultra burst to become Ultra Necrozma, a colossal dragon of pure light energy. It can also fuse with Solgaleo and Lunala, making even more terrifying versions of the Sun and Moon mascots. Necrozma originates from deep space and is able to open and travel through ultra wormholes. It had the ability to give light, but was injured and partially broke, thus resulting in the spread of crystals capable of activating Pokemon's ability to use Z moves. This Pokemon is the reason we can use Z moves, and he just looks horrifying. Necrozma is my sleep paralysis demon. Then at 10, Gyarados. Shiny Gyarados is probably one of the most famous shinies in the world, being the first guaranteed shiny to my knowledge in Gold, Silver, and Crystal, as well as their remakes, appearing in the Lake of Rage as a set encounter. According to the anime, Red Gyarados is created when a Magikarp is forced to evolve, not having the time to change its scale color to blue, but like, holy hell is this thing scary. Appearing at a location called the Lake of Rage and being red, a color often associated with rage, blood, and fury, can make for one intimidating Pokemon. Especially when the Magikarp to Gyarados evolution is probably the scariest change or evolution, hands down. Magikarp is basically harmless until like level 15 when it learns Tackle, and then Gyarados is like 5 levels after that, and it's always been a force to be reckoned with, especially its mega shiny form. That is true terror. And at 9, Eevee. If you've been a fan of this channel for a while, you may remember the Eevee creepypastas that had their own little series on the channel. The top 10 scariest Eevee creepypastas, along with the top 10 scariest Eevee creepypastas you've never heard. Yeah, we're creative with titles. However, those have forever warped my perception of shiny Eevee. In one of those creepypasta videos, there was a shiny Eevee that was red instead of the normal white, which was incredibly cool to the author, so they captured it and fought with it until the Eevee was hit with a hydro pump that washed off the red, revealing that it was a normal shiny Eevee. That Eevee then totally destroyed its opponent, covering itself in blood once more, turning it back to red. And now that's what I think of every time I think of shiny Eevee, and I can't get it out of my head, okay? This list is subjective and mine, so I'm allowed to put Eevee on here. By the way, we're trying something new, so if you are enjoying this video, please let us know by hitting the like button. It really helps us out and we can figure out what you'd like to see more of. Okay, let's keep going. And an 8, Corviknight. Don't get me wrong, shiny Corviknight is beautiful and something I'm 100% going to hunt, but I've already talked about how this Pokemon is terrifying, multiple times in fact. So to go from that to what looks like a fully metal bird is the stuff of nightmares. Not to even think about its Gigantamax version. The Sword Pokedex even says that the black luster of its steel body could drive terror into the heart of any foe, but what if the body was pure metal? Have you seen The Sorcerer's Apprentice? When Nicolas Cage makes the metal eagle on the Empire State Building or whatever it is fly, that's literally Corviknight's shiny form, and those things are terrifying. A giant metal bird flying at your face? No thank you. And not to mention that there are 8 feathers on its back that are called blade birds that can attack foes individually, okay? This Pokemon is already scary. The shiny thing just makes it even worse. And it's 7, Duskull. I think Duskull's line of shinies is probably one of the most disappointing, at least in the Diamond and Pearl gen. The Duskull and Dusclops shinies are so nice. They're pink, which makes them look like they're blood-soaked, and then there's Dusk Noir, where they literally throw the whole pink thing out and make him blue. Like, come on Game Freak, don't do this to me. Sure, it was added later, but keep the shiny forms consistent. While this may be scary because of the final shiny being drastically different, like I said before, making Duskull pink just makes him look blood-soaked. While I could go on about shiny legendary legendaries and how they're scary to begin with, I think the shiny of this Pokemon actually makes it scary. Duskull is kinda cute honestly, one of my favorite Gen 4 Pokemon, but like, turning him pink makes me think he's gonna go on a killing spree and then he doesn't stop being cute after that. It's like if Chucky was actually a proper doll instead of a baby secret knockoff, okay? Blood-soaked ghost Pokemon? Yeah, bye. And at 6, Charizard. Charizard is another one of those shinies that comes out of nowhere. Charmander and Charmeleon both lean towards the yellow end of the shiny spectrum, and then there's Charizard, who comes in like Alduin and screws shit up. Looking into the sky and seeing a Charizard is normal in the Pokemon world, but looking up and seeing a big black dragon isn't. Like I said, it's like Skyrim and Pokemon had a baby and out came shiny Charizard. I don't care how lame you think Charizard is, how overrated you think he is, or how powerful you think he is. You see a giant black dragon and you run, okay? I don't know why, but for some reason all the black dragons are the most powerful ones, and I don't want to stick around to see if Charizard is any different. I'm just gonna run and hope that it doesn't bite my head off in Sovngarde after I've come there to save all of Tamriel. Sorry, that's Alduin again. I keep getting them confused. Halfway through number 5, Trevenant. What's worse than a wandering soul who dies in the forest, possesses a tree stump, and then evolves into a possessed tree Lorax who will actually kill anyone who tries to cut down a tree? A wandering soul who dies in a forest, possesses a tree stump, evolves into a possessed tree Lorax who actually kills people, that looks like a ghost. Yeah, all that to say because it looks like a ghost. And I'm not wrong, it actually looks like it's a tree on fire, which is really ironic when you think about it. The tree trunk of shiny Trevenant is white, which it would be if it was set on fire, at least after it was done being on fire. And then the leaves are red as if they're flames. That is kinda torturing a Pokemon that wants to protect the forest but also has a fear of fire Pokemon. But also, what makes a Trevenant or Phantom shiny? Like, since they're people who got lost in a forest, what is the prerequisite of that person to make the actual Pokemon shiny? Let me know your theories down below. And at 4, Darkrai. Darkrai has made it onto my scariest legendary Pokemon list, okay? It may be a mythical Pokemon, but in all honesty, mythical Pokemon are still a form of legendary, so chill out. Darkrai is a freaking beast, okay? Having control over nightmares and can put you in a coma with a single touch. This Pokemon is the Prince of Darkness, pitch black aside from his hair and I guess it's beard? Or is that a scarf? It doesn't matter. He only has a few colors, but just wait until you see his shiny. Boom! You looking for this? Yeah, the Prince of Darkness turns pink, but like the darkest pink known to man. There's dark pink and then there's Darkrai pink. And while this shiny may be beautiful, I don't know why, but it just puts me on edge. Just thinking about the original scariest Pokemon being pink and purple just throws me off. And the dark pink thing is really unsettling. Like how kids say really creepy crap. It's like my daughter just said that she was murdered in her past life and the body was buried under the house, okay? I don't know why, it just is. I said daughter because I hope to have a daughter, not because it's pink, so chill out in the comments, don't say anything about, oh, your son in generals. And at 3, Rayquaza. This is the same idea as Charizard. While seeing a Rayquaza flying around isn't as common unless you're the protagonist of a Pokemon anime, the thought of seeing a black Rayquaza fly overhead is enough to shake the bones. The color of black in the Pokemon universe is often associated with darkness. Dark caves, dark type Pokemon, Pokemon considered evil such as Darkrai, Necrozma, and Zekrom, who people may see as evil even if they aren't, and a giant flying snake is something to run from despite its color, or the fact that it will be impossible to see against a night sky. I talked about this literally yesterday, so I don't think I need to go into too much detail, but it's scary. Trust me. And at 2, Haxorus. Haxorus's shiny is similar to that of Charizard or Rayquaza, but also different. It's a black shiny, which is always sick and scary at the same time, but it's a deeper black than the others, and has other shades mixed in that make the black look darker and scarier, at least on its legs and belly. The rest of this Pokemon is the normal Pokemon black, but with the highlights of red on his toes, fingers, and face blades that are only meant to represent the flesh trapped underneath after years of tearing Pokemon and trainers to shreds. This Pokemon is a set encounter in Pokemon Black and White too, but I don't know if you want having this Pokemon on your team on your conscience. Even if he's in your box, he can probably wreak havoc amongst the other Pokemon, even if they're supposed to be just code. Like, this guy is a living creepypasta, and that just doesn't sit right with me. Finally, in at number 1, Gengar. Gengar's shiny is scarier than all the others because, well, it's scary bad. This shiny Pokemon is literally 2 shades darker, and that's the shiny. Sure, there are other Pokemon like that, like take Pikachu for example, but the other shinies on this line are beautiful. I spent like 8 hours hunting for a shiny Ghastly in Pokemon Let's Go, and the whole time I was just taken aback by how beautiful it is. And Shiny Haunter, while not as drastic, has a beautiful change in mouth color that sets it apart from the rest. Gengar is just a little darker. In the recently recently released Crown Tundra DLC for Pokemon Sword and Shield, they actually changed to shiny. They've done this before, but this time is the first time in a while. But out of all the Pokemon they decided to change, they changed Combuskin. Really? Who was asking for that? We have been begging Game Freak to fix the shiny Pokemon that are only a shade or two darker, and they decide to change Combuskin? Not Blaziken, not Pikachu, not Tauros, who some people hate, not Gengar, but Combuskin. Okay. Oh, and the shiny Mega Gengar is absolutely horrifying, okay? A giant ghost that actually looks like it's a ghost finally. It's like King Boo on steroids. Yikes. And it said Mimikyu. I have Mimikyu on the top 10 scariest ghost Pokemon because Mimikyu is primarily a ghost type. However, its secondary typing is fairy, which makes it viable for this list. But I've already talked about Mimikyu, so I'll put it at number 10. Mimikyu is believed to be a cursed Pokemon, hence why it wears a rag decorated to look like Pikachu over itself. That rag means everything to Mimikyu, and if a Pokemon or trainer breaks it or damages it enough, Mimikyu will spend all night repairing it, only to then go and get revenge on the one who nearly revealed its true form. It's also said that it protects its true form because looking at it will cause painful death. Yeah, this thing is a little Medusa head. Remove the sunglasses, or in this case the rag, and you're done got dead. And at 9, Galarian Weezing. Weezing is typically a poison Pokemon, but in its Galarian form introduced in Sword and Shield, it gains the secondary typing of Fairy. Galarian Weezing is basically normal Weezing, but more posh. But with Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimsdale Dimmadome hats on their heads acting like smokestacks, and green gas forming mustaches, beards, and eyebrows on the two faces that make its body. This thing is actually kind of terrifying when you look at it compared to normal Weezing. Like, how did this happen? What in the Galar region air turns Weezing into such a posh cloud of poison gas? Maybe we should be investigating Galar for what's in their water, or what's in their poison gas? Pollution? Let's just call it pollution. And at 8, Granbull. Granbull may be described as a timid Pokemon, but at first glance you won't see that in the slightest. Granbull used to be a normal type Pokemon prior to Generation 6, but it's now a pure fairy type, so it counts. This bipedal bulldog is actually kinda scary looking, especially to those who are afraid of dogs. There are some people in my building who are even scared of my pug. My little baby boy wouldn't hurt a fly and can't bite you because his face is too round, but I'm not here to judge. Honestly, I'm surprised I'm not scared of dogs. When I was a kid, I was like bitten on the face, and I had to get a few stitches, I think. I don't know, I was very young. But I didn't develop a fear of them. I guess it's because I was always around them because of my grandparents. My life story aside, the pink and intimidating nature of this Pokemon is honestly enough to put me on edge. And other Pokemon agree. One of the primary abilities for Granbull is Intimidate. So that's something to back me up, right? And at 7, Clefable. Look, I don't know what's up with this thing, but Clefable gives me Barney but slightly more predatory vibes. Like Clefable wants to get a little too close to Ash and friends, if you know what I mean. But not Brock, because we all know Brock's an old man. But this Pokemon's lack of soul aside, this thing just looks creepy too. Look at those eyes. It's like they're staring deep into your soul, or in my case, Void, where they will suck out every ounce of happiness you have ever felt. They're like the Pokemon version of a Dementor that will steal your happiness and soul in order to feed their extraterrestrial moon god on a full moon at midnight. Those eyes are so dead they're Kanye's presidential chances. And it doesn't help with this whole creeper idea since it can't get the ability Cute Charm, and it likes to live alone, isolated from the rest of humanity. That's terrifying to say the least, especially how I'm seeing this. And at 6, Klefki. Klefki isn't really a scary Pokemon at first glance, aside from the fact that it's scary that Game Freak and Nintendo let this Pokemon be created. However, the actual lore behind this Pokemon is really unsettling. In the past, Klefki inhabited mines and fed on minerals within those mines. However, it ended up moving to human settlements after its food started drying up. It now feeds by sticking its head into keyholes. That's just weird, dude. Don't go around just thrusting your head into my keyhole. I'm trying to go home. Anyway, Klefki understandably likes keys, so the most obvious course of action is to collect them by breaking into people's homes and stealing them. Yes, this Pokemon will straight up break into your house and steal your keys. It won't leave a copy or anything behind either, so if you live in a town and you see a Klefki, you need to make like 4 different copies of your house and car keys just in case. It's actually common for people to give important keys to Klefki in order to prevent theft. I don't understand it, but it's still weird and actually pretty creepy. Halfway through at number 5, Slurpuff. Slurpuff is probably one of the most confusing Pokemon to pin down in terms of its design. It's based on some form of pastry, but honestly this thing is too creepy for me to think straight. I know it's a wholesome Pokemon that helps pastry chefs cook, and it's just nice and sweet, and its fur contains a lot of air making them feel like a cloud, but how am I supposed to come up with 10 fairy Pokemon that are actually scary? That's not gonna work. This is by far the thinnest I've had to stretch for this list, and honestly I'm fine with that. that. The next 4 are actually scary and as were most of the first 5. But I think the scary thing about this Pokemon is their ability to determine a person's mental and physical condition by smelling them. A Slurpuff's sense of smell is apparently 100 million times stronger than that of a human. So they can just smell you and then boom, you're looking for this, they can clinically diagnose you with depression. That's weird and unsettling. Maybe they have like a stake in drug sales and they're trying to make a profit. And at 4, Gardevoir. Gardevoir is scary for 2 reasons. The first and more serious one is the fact that Gardevoir is a gateway Pokemon. Gardevoir is the most common waifu Pokemon and that makes her extremely terrifying and dangerous as a result. You don't even need to type in anything like not safe for work or the famous rule to get some risque artwork of Gardevoir on Google. All you need to do is type in her name and then boom, you're looking for this. A load of frustrated men have dedicated their time to drawing the original Pokemon waifu in some not very flattering situations. Not to mention that this then leads to a whole world of Pokemon waifus. With the trainers, it's understandable. May is Bay and Dawn is clearly the best, but with this, you need to deal with Lopunny and Lycanroc, Delphox and Magearna, Roserade and Eevee? Probopass? Okay, that's enough of Reddit. And the other and less important reason, Gardevoir is also able to open up black holes, which means that if left unchecked, Gardevoir could end up accidentally destroying the universe. Which probably wouldn't be a good thing, but after looking at that Probopass, I think I'm okay with it. And at 3, Mawile. There is no way you can tell me that you don't think Mawile is scary. Mawile has a giant jaw attached to the back of its head that it can control separately from the rest of its body. That thing is like a Venus flytrap that can run around and fight, like the Piranha Plant from Smash Bros. Except we knew this one had feet from the start. And don't even think about the mega evolution of Mawile, where this Venus flytrap resemblance only grows stronger and then she gets a second one. It's stupid, crazy, and honestly so terrible that I can't even spell properly in my script. I've had to rewrite this number countless times because of all my damn spelling mistakes, but alas, here we are, talking about it because there isn't really much else to talk about with Mawile. I don't even need to go into the lore to find this thing terrifying, okay? We already see it. We done been new. And at 2, Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl is the Green Goblin of the Pokemon universe, but not just any Green Goblin, the ultimate Green Goblin. Grimmsnarl is an absolute dump truck. He is ripped and covered in muscle-shaped hair, which acts like muscles and enhances his strength. He can also control each hair strand individually, often using them to ensnare opponents. And his Gigantamax form is even more intimidating and terrifying. In its Gigantamax form, you can see that it gets covered in the muscle hair fiber that enhances its strength exponentially. So totally, we would all be 100% screwed if Grimmsnarl decided to just go wild one day like a college student at a bar before March of this year. He's an unhinged maniac who can do whatever he wants and get away with it. How is this thing a fairy type? There is nothing about him that even remotely says fairy. This thing should be dark and fighting type, not dark and fairy. What the hell? Finally, in at number 1, Mr. Mime. I think we all know why Mr. Mime is on this list. The original Creeper Raw Man Pokemon, Mr. Mime lives on in our nightmares for decades to come. Mimes are already creepy as hell, and then adding the whole creeper thing and then making it a Pokemon that in Detective Pikachu literally looks like his shoulders are made of dodgeballs makes this too much for me to handle. Like, how could this Pokemon not be scary to you? He is literally the embodiment of what we all consider Hypno to be. Hypno kidnapped a child because Mr. Mime ordered him to. This guy is the worst thing to happen to Pokemon. And his Galarian form, it's like the freaking Monopoly man was on Epstein's Island for a couple of years and then decided to come back and be a Pokemon. It's not okay.
So, number 9, Tarnished Gold. First of all, absolutely love the name of this one. Tarnished Gold sounds like a perfume from Elden Ring. It's a creepypasta about another hacked copy of Pokemon Gold and Silver. The narrator starts a new game, and instead of the usual intro with Professor Oak, is treated to a monologue of someone explaining that Pokemon are actually just tools to be used and not friends, which is like the opposite of what's true if you've ever seen a single episode of the Pokemon show. It's like, you know, nothing. When the game starts properly, you find that you're playing as the rival character Silver, not Gold. Bizarrely, you can't name the Pokemon, and when you try, a dialogue prompt pops up and tells you not to love them, which is just so unbelievably funny. It's got no business being in a ghost story. Eventually, the plot gets pretty out there in this game. Mewtwo and Team Rocket end up causing the deaths of all your Pokemon, and eventually the main character even too. This one actually does sound kind of interesting, and I'm curious if anybody's ever tried to make like a playable version of it like some of the other games on this list. Number 8. Blue Tears. Our next creepypasta is Blue Tears. I gotta just say, all of these names sound like they could be fragrances. This story is about another hacked Pokemon copy that gets acquired at a mysterious garage sale. At some point, they gotta organize a big swap meet for cursed Pokemon games, because there's clearly a lot of them out there being circulated, and it must be so tough to find them at a garage sale. Anyway, it was a copy of Pokemon Blue that said Tears on it. When the game started, you're treated to a strange monologue from someone complaining of everything being taken from them. And then the game starts inside a cemetery with the rival character, either being named Blue or Gary, whatever you prefer, staring at a gravestone and proclaiming he'll get his revenge. Instead of Pokemon battles now, the only gameplay is trying to track down the previous protagonist that Red and get revenge for losing all your Pokemon. Instead of Pokemon, you have a knife in your inventory, and as the person kept playing the game, they started bleeding from the nose, and look, I'm gonna be honest, this one's just a little bit silly to me. It's not written the best either. There's a bit in this story where they mentioned that they were really scared because they got into a trainer battle and they couldn't run away, and I was sitting at my chair kind of shaking my head like, you can't run away from trainer battles anyway. It's a trainer battle, not a wild Pokemon encounter, duh. Is that a pedantic reason to discount this story? Entirely, but I'm a very pedantic guy. Number 7, Yellow Death. Tarnished Gold, Blue Tears, Yellow Death. I can't with all of these. They sound very high end. Anyway, the narrator of this creepypasta is working at a game store when they get an unusual copy of Pokemon Yellow given to him, and someone asks him to fix it. And he says that the game is stuck. He's frozen and his Pokemon keep dying. The clerk is amused by this and says he'll take it home to give it a try to see what he can do. The game appears normal, except the cartridge has Pikachu's eyes scratched out, which is unnerving to say the least. The game seems normal at first, although it's glitchy. And then the cursed Lavender Town music is playing all throughout. The storyline progresses normally, but when you get to Lavender Town, when you're dueling that ghost, the player's Pikachu faints and is replaced with a gravestone, implying Pikachu died. Rest in peace, big homie. As the player keeps coming back to try and battle the ghost, he finds that his Pokemon keep dying until eventually he runs out of Pokemon and his own character had died too. Restarting the game now inside the player's bedroom, but now transparent and missing all items from the inventory. And the person who gave the clerk that original copy of the game never came back for it. And the clerk understood why. Number 6, Hypno's Lullaby. This one's not as much of a creepypasta as the others, but it's almost like an in-universe creepypasta, if that makes sense. It's not a story about a haunted game affecting somebody who got it at a swap meet or something. It's a spooky little nursery rhyme about Hypno, who has always stood out to me as one of the creepier Pokemon as is. I mean, look at the guy. I don't like the look of his eyes. That whole evolution, really, there's something a little bit off about Drowsy too. Both of those two are up there with Mr. Mime for Pokemon I would never feel safe being in a room around. Anyway, this creepypasta makes Hypno out to be like the Pokemon version of Freddy Krueger. Take a listen. Come little children, come with me. Safe and happy you will be. Away from home now let us run. With Hypno you'll have lots of fun. Oh little children please don't cry. Hypno wouldn't hurt a fly. Be free to frolic, be free to play. Come with me to my cave to stay. Oh little children, please don't squirm. Those ropes I know will hold you firm. Now look to me, the pendant calls. Back and forth your eyelids fall. Minds unraveling at the seam. Allow me to haunt their dreams. Do not wail and do not weep. It's time for you to go to sleep. Little children, you were not clever. Now you'll stay here forever. Oh, I'm worried I just casted like a spell reading that out. If any of you start noticing that you're cursed afterwards, I'm very sorry about that. Number 5, Pokemon Black. Coming up next is going to be the story of Pokemon Black. Now, if you're a Pokemon fan, you know they actually did end up making a Pokemon Black down the line on the 3DS, and this one was way before that. This is about a creepypasta about a hacked game. Anyway, Pokemon Black was a hack of the original 2 games, with the intention being to make a more spooky Pokemon, you know, if you thought that it wasn't scary enough. Instead of starting with one of the original 3 starters, I was always a Charmander guy, BT dubs sliding that in there, you get the Ghost from Lavender Town as your starter Pokemon. Other Pokemon aren't able to attack it at all, and its only move is Curse, which was always a one-hit takedown. And if they thought a trainer, each defeated Pokemon would be shown as being removed from the roster instead of just fainting. And when the trainer was defeated altogether, the sprite would be replaced with a gravestone. The implication pretty clear. After leaving a trail of shallow graves around Kanto, when you beat the Elite Four, you get a flash forward of Red as an old man, remembering all the Pokemon and trainers he stepped on to get to where he is. And then his ghost turns on him and the save file is deleted. Now the story's cool enough, the hack is pretty fun, but what makes Pokemon Black actually pretty cool is that it's been made into an unofficial fan game for those who want to experience that creepypasta firsthand, which is so cool. Not for me though, I'm not willing to take any risk with any curses, even from a fan Pokemon game. Number 4, Strangled Red. Coming up next is another scary hacked Pokemon game. I don't know about you, but I kind of find those ones to be my favorite of the creepypastas. I like thinking about some madman sitting alone in his room at night creating a haunted Pokemon game instead of a ghost coming into a cartridge. In Strangled Red, our protagonist finds a Pokemon Red cart in the trash, which is how you know this story is fake, by the way, because an original Pokemon Red cart is like $500. Anyway, the narrator finds the game, takes it home to play, and doesn't realize the game's been hacked. Instead of playing as Red, the usual silent Pokemon protagonist, they play as a character named Steven, who's been fleshed out and has a rival named Mike, and they've got a realistic relationship and everything. At one point in the game, the player trades their precious Charizard to Mike, and a loud snap was heard. And the next time the narrator tried to play the game, they found that their Charizard had died, and the game becomes about trying to revive the Charizard by any means possible. Honestly, it's a fun little story about the connection you have to your Pokemon, and the narrative trying to tie into the plot of the original Pokemon game is neat, but man, that is a lot of work for a ROM hack just to throw it away. Number 3, Snow on Mount Silver. Alright, this one's kind of halfway cool, to be honest, but like halfway. This one's about a sister and brother who grow up loving Pokemon games together, and as part of a shared hobby, they try to learn to mod games together. Eventually, something happens to the protagonist's brother, and he has a psychotic break and tries to destroy his copy of Pokemon and asks his sister to get rid of all of his Pokemon while he's in the hospital. And the first thing the protagonist notices is that in his game, all the Pokemon seem to look different, sad and sullen. The character is trapped on Mount Silver, the frozen mountain, and nothing the player can do seems to be able to get them out of this situation. And their Pokemon slowly would start to succumb to frostbite. Every time the player tries to escape or leave or anything, a text box pops up telling them that there is no escape. And eventually the Pokemon start dying, one by one. Red is still atop the mountain, just like in the original game, but when they try to have a Pokemon duel, all of their Pokemon just end up dying from the frost. After the duel, the game flashes a bright white screeching, and when turned back on, Pikachu's face was distorted, twisted, and waiting for the player. Number 2, Lost Silver. Another story about a mysterious, creepy, hacked copy of a Pokemon game acquired by someone unknowingly. Like a lot of these Pokemon creepypastas, you get home and you turn the game on and discover someone else has already made a save file, with a party of unknown that spell out leave and a Cyndaquil named Hurry. It's not the best nickname, to be honest. The player's save file was just named ... which is pretty spooky. As the story goes on, the unknown will change to start spelling scary messages, and as the game keeps going forward, the player starts fading more and more, turning transparent, the sprite losing their arms and legs and replacing them with bloody stumps, bloody tears down the eyes, which is pretty darn creepy, to be honest. I saw a lot of fan art for this trying to write this thing, and yeah, you guys are drawing some creepy stuff out there. You keep going in the game, and eventually you reach a cemetery, and you realize the character you've been playing has been dead the entire time. A master trainer who was forgotten by the next generation after their unfortunate death. Like a couple other ones, some fans actually did end up making this ROM hack in real life. So if you're curious about playing this haunted Pokemon game, look it up online, or hey, look up any of the playthroughs available. I gotta ask, how come all of these stories are about the first 2 games? How come no ghosts are up there haunting a copy of Pokemon Emerald? Number 1, Lavender Town. You already knew it had to be this one. Coming in at the number 1 spot, it has to be Lavender Town Syndrome. Easily the scariest Pokemon creepypasta, and I'm gonna be for real with you, probably the scariest creepypasta actually out there. This one genuinely used to keep me awake at night. Admittedly, I was a child, but for real. If you haven't heard of this one, the quick story of Lavender Town Syndrome is that the theme composed for Lavender Town, that legendarily hair-raising piece of music, was even more sinister than it sounds, as it allegedly contained hidden binaural beats that would make the listener aggressive, homicidal, depressed, and all sorts of terrible mental states. In some versions of the legend, it's only present in Pokemon Red, connecting to a rumor that series director Satoshi Tajiri thought the color red was too violent, and this was the sort of way to get payback. Unlike a lot of creepypastas, this one doesn't have any ghosts or possessions or hacked copies, and is really down to earth and just believable enough to truly get under your skin and get terrifying. It also helps that Lavender Town by default is super creepy. The music is scary, and I think we can all agree as kids, we all were kind of freaked out by this, a little village where they all worship dead Pokemon, right? Now what's super fascinating about this is that the Western and Japanese versions of Pokemon Red and Blue actually do have ever so slightly different versions of the Lavender Town music, and that's the only different music between the 2 copies. So, why did they do that? Just a little bit of a regional flavor? Or is there something more to that music?